brain slews, slick with ectoplasmic juice. Ecstatic energy, a fire that fuels our memory. With genealogy, with spiritual topography. Questions for your answers, we are data necromancers.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 54.
54, slightly over half of a century.
There's some confusion about what I do, and I realize we never introduce ourselves. We just assume that you've seen all 54 episodes.
Confusion about what you do? Who has that?
Just people that, social media people.
People who take a look and they're like, what the hell is this?
Yep. I do not work at Yummy Noob anymore. I did work there for a very long time. I currently have my own YouTube channel, this podcast. We have recently restarted Bottom Sprocket, which is a motorcycle podcast with Jake and Josh. Got that going again. That should be coming out soon, maybe this week even. I am an editor for another female moto vlogger.
She's a woman. She's a lady.
She runs a big channel. Nice, beautiful lady. And I almost called her big, and I'm like,
big old beautiful baby.
I'm bigger than her. And then what else do I do, Megan? So
you're a mom.
Doodle, Broken, Bottom Sprocket.
Oh, she's
I'm a mom.
The videographer for Rubbish Cook.
And I teach cocktail classes, and we're writing a cookbook. I do feel like I may have too many irons in the fire.
She's got she's stirring a lot of pots.
Got a lot of hats. Don't have a lot of free time.
She likes it that way, though. Don't let her fool you. She likes to be busy. She likes to be slammed.
I think I've sold my fucking online tea. Somebody Venmo'd me $1,000.
As a deposit?
As a deposit. I have two people from Guatemala who are like, they never fucking sold this bike here. I need this now. The one that made the move a lot quicker than the other guy, I felt sort of bad, but I was like, put your femininity away. Put your guilt
You're equating femininity with guilt.
Yes. Because I often witness my husband not feel this. It's like, what? Money talks. You got the money to do it? Cool. You don't? Bye. See you later. Like, where I'm like, oh, well, he was going to give him a ride with his friends, and he was going to go down to... He's like, it's weird that you think that way.
It makes my eye twitch to say it's feminine, though. I don't love it.
And he's been a big fan of the channel, and he was like, oh my god, I can't believe I found your bike. He's very happy. He sent me pictures of the bike he's got now.
That's amazing. How do you get it to Guatemala?
He has family in San Antonio, so
that's perfect.
Something is happening. I was like, okay, I won't sell it from underneath you, but thank god that bike.
Bless up.
I was about to go bring it to the dealership. I didn't want to do that. It's just more work. Megan, what do you do?
What do I do?
What do you fucking do? You got projects under your belt?
I just sit and stare at my belly button. That's all I do. I teach cooking classes for a living. That's my full-time gig, but I don't really have full-time hours. It all depends on who's booking, you know? People gotta book it. If they book it, I will come.
If you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean.
Swing.
Come on. Swing. Swing. I'm also Rubbish Cook, which is an alter ego that is very useful for me because it helps me flex my creativity, my culinary creativity, but it also gives me footage to edit, which I love doing. So I have my own YouTube channel. I am not as enterprising as young Whitney here. I think I have like 380 followers, and so I'm not on the fast track to monetizing that. But it is one of my most beloved passions.
You didn't spend 3 years on a 1 point.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
1 point bajillion, whatever.
It's like, you got a long way to go. But I'm not going to give it up. I just need to maintain my sanity and not worry about it, you know?
Yeah, and it can be like, I get motivation from, I lose way more followers every time I post, which is always weird to me.
It's so wild.
It's so weird. I'm like, well, wait, what?
But it's great too, because you don't want hangers on if they don't like what you're doing.
I don't know. He won't do it.
Can you do it from here? So I do all the like admin-y bits for Let's Eat.
Dude, you are an admin queen.
It's like all my experience at Hotel Ella as sales coordinator and like group dining manager and stuff has been super useful. So I'm really good at sending emails, and
you know how to talk to people. I don't. I sit there and stare at an email form being like, God, you're an idiot.
I love hitting the send button. There's something so liberating about that finality. It's like, fuck it, I said what I said, and I'll die on that hill, you know? But other than that, I'm a dancer. I like to dance. I like to laugh. I like to tell jokes. Everywhere I look in the world, I see jokes. And sometimes I point them out to the people that I care about.
Did you mention Apocalyptic Kitchen?
I have not mentioned Apocalyptic Kitchen.
She's on the Apocalyptic Kitchen train again, and you film it at a fucking legit...
It's in a studio. It's on a green screen set. So I want to create some trash fashion for myself to wear in the next segment. And it's all part of this. My friend Tyler is doing a show called Laserfish Space Punks. And so the Rubbish Cook Apocalyptic Kitchen is sort of like a subset of that show. That's its current iteration. Like, it's always going to take on new shapes. But Murphy, he's all wrapped up.
Murphy, just fucking...
Come here, brother.
Little brother.
So we have a meeting for that next Monday, September 11th. And then super busy week with classes that week.
Yeah, you said you've got like a crazy week in September.
Yeah, it's like 2 days.
But it's a lot of people in 2 days.
It is. I'm excited. There's a vegan risotto class, which I'm really excited about. And then there's like a 20-person roast chicken class. And this was
my God.
This was the guy who emailed about...
That's different than the November 20... Whoa.
Isn't that wild? So he emailed and he was like, this menu is fairly stale.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything that we can do to enhance the menu?
We have how many menus? 25? And you picked this. We teach 25 different classes.
Well, and then I responded and I was like, we're going to do an herb rub on the chicken. It's stuffed with, thyme and garlic and lemon and, beets, pistachios, goat cheese. I went into detail about all the things that are like left off on the short version of the menu. And then he never responded. So I checked back in and I was like, hey, did you have any questions? And he was like, I am totally comfortable with putting it in your hands. I trust you, and it's going to be fantastic.
So you had a good night's sleep, and now you're not a dickhole.
Yeah, initially he was like, roast chicken, mashed potatoes. This sounds boring. I'm an adventurous guy, and I need more.
So do the vegan ramen, you fart.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. It's fine. It's going to be great. Thanks for checking in about my career.
We've got a lot of irons in the fire and we don't ever talk about it, and people don't know about it.
Dude, the other night, friend of the show, Jacob, I forget your last name, sorry bro, he took one of my classes.
Oh cool, did he have fun?
He was awesome. Yeah, he brought, I think, his partner, Sarah, and we had a blast. Like, it was so fun.
Was he traveling?
He lives here. I forget whereabouts. But so this is how he found us. he was just like scrolling on Instagram or whatever, and he saw that Doug had commented on one of my posts. And of course, Doug...
Shout out Doug.
Doug is a fucking god.
Doug is, if you don't know who... Doug, right? I'm not...
Doug Lessenhop. DJ Doug Pound.
DJ Doug Pound.
He's a god.
Comedian.
He was super influential to me, like starting to edit videos. Of course, I like to incorporate drops or sound effects or whatever. And like Doug has a very specific style that I find hilarious, as do a lot of people. So Jacob saw that Doug had commented on one of my posts, and then he was like, who is this person? And sort of looked at more Rubbish Cook stuff and thought it was funny, and then saw that, you know, Let's Eat Austin is also connected, and then also got into the podcast because he saw that MAWPOD was connected. So it's like, we might not talk about all of our different endeavors on the pod, but it's all connected. You can find us.
If you're smart, you'll
which Jacob is.
Which Jacob is smart.
He was so cool.
It out.
He was like, he used to work at Uchiko, and so we were like talking about this and that, and there was another couple there with us, and it was actually a pasta class, which I don't usually teach, but since Aaron was out of town.
Was that your 4-top?
That was a 4-top. It was supposed to be a 9-top, but the 5-top decided to shag ass in a different direction 48 hours prior, so I had to give him the full refund. But anyway, great to meet Jacob. So excited about...
Thanks, Jacob. I think it's ideal if I found out with my motorcycle rentals that you can offer experiences, and I was like, oh, okay. You get to...
Like guided tours?
Yeah, like we could go tour HEB, and then we're gonna go to Let's Eat Austin, and I'm gonna teach you how to make drinks on motorcycles. Yeah, it's like you could just turn that into a whole fucking
that
thing,
sounds
which
amazing.
would be funny. So yeah, that's us. We're gonna film a commercial for the pod soon, because I keep putting that off, and I don't want to put it off anymore. We have so
many ideas of things that we want to
I think we'll just be real simple. We just need to
create.
throw it out into the fucking ether.
Yeah. No, like all the things we need to get on the calendar that we want to
Dumplings.
do. Dumplings. I feel really good about that. And
Cupcakes.
Our Temple Mall pod.
Yes.
We need to do.
We just need to just put it on the calendar. Like, it just needs to happen.
And I really think that it would be cool next year, if possible, if we could take it on a little tour. Like a close by tour.
That would be so
or
sick.
Something, you know, like, I don't know. I think that'd be awesome. And then, like, in conjunction with that, I could do Rubbish Cook on the road. I've always had this dream of just, like, rolling up into somebody else's house and being like, all right, what do we got? What are we making?
I saw Joshua Wiseman did that with college students, because those are the people who most need help. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, shit, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Like, we could roll up on Apollo and be like, okay, bro, you have a hentai magazine and some rice papers. Let's make dinner. You know?
That'd be amazing.
It would just be fucking funny to...
Is he up and clean?
He's in Waco. He's at college in Waco. It's his freshman year, so
cool.
it'd be kind of funny.
Waco is supposed to be cool, look like becoming cool now.
Waco, there's actually an Amish homesteading thing that I want to go to. They sell like really crazy grains and flowers, and
whoa, that sounds cool.
Let's go.
Let's go. Thanks to Chip and Joanna Gaines. They really put Waco on the map.
They
don't they have like a Magnolia something cafe maybe, or no?
It's a compound. It is a
are they brainwashing?
Farmhouse compound. I sent you a picture once of they had all these cookbooks out, and there was something called unicorn toast, and my brain immediately goes to like, okay, you go on this really complicated long adventure, you find a unicorn, you sous vide. Like, I was like, it would be really funny to write like an actual recipe for unicorn toast. But this shit was so stupid, and I said it was toast, and it was just like different
pink for beets,
different
green
colored
avocado
toast, and I was like, that is so complicated for something that is so stupid.
It's this phenomenon of like creating things with the intention of making a picture of them, which is not really how I like to eat, but some people like to eat like that.
I was
As
like,
they say,
cream cheese. I was like, yuck. I was like, just
it
on
sounds
bread.
earthy.
It's like, it's not great on its own.
Yuccaroni.
Okay, switching gears.
Yeah. Ooh.
I had 2 things I wanted to talk about.
All right.
And you get to pick which one.
Okay.
Crazy dream.
Crazy dream.
Where I potentially went to another dimension.
Whoa.
Or little Central Texas birthing center of horrors story.
Like from your previous birth? Can't we do both?
We're gonna do both.
Okay, let's do dream first.
Okay, dream first. Okay, so you guys have had have you had sleep paralysis? Like, were
No.
you? And that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. How about you guys on the chat? Have y'all had sleep?
No!
It's like you wake up, you can't move, you're in a strange state, and it sounds like the SWAT team's coming in. I've had all sorts of crazy.
And you can, like, your eyes are open?
No, I don't think so. It feels like your eyes are open, but they're not.
And so you're in a dream, but you can't move?
You're in your room and you're in your bed.
Oh.
And you're conscious, but you do not have control over your body.
And your eyes are closed.
And usually there's like, for me, there's always like some violent rabid dog barking. There's the SWAT team coming in. And you're paralyzed and you're like trapped there. So apparently, according to Sarah, if we hop into the metaphysical realm,
Yeah.
she said this is your soul trying to get back in your body, and you can't. And so you're kind of like stuck there until you figure it out. And she's like, sometimes you'll hear a loud popping sound. And I'm like, yes, I've heard that. And she's like, yeah, it's you. Sometimes ancestors or something will come by and like try to shove you back in your body.
It's your ghost who found some bubble wrap and he's just going to town.
Sitting in the corner saying, I'll watch you sleep. So I had that, but this time there was no dogs barking or SWAT team busting in. I heard Ruby giggling, and I'm like, what are you doing, you little sleep astral toddler? And I feel like a toy be put on my chest, and I hear like Ruby like giggling, and I'm like, bitch. And then I suddenly started instinctively, not consciously, putting a purple flame perimeter around my property, because I was like, Ruby, where are you going? Like, no, you can't. And I started like pulsating that flame border. Whoa. And I felt like crazy, the Hindus call it Shakti, in my spine. And then I blasted up through the roof into the night sky, but everything was like purple tinged, like dark, shadowy, purpley tinged.
Yes.
And suddenly, like, as my blast off, I like understood cows better.
Huh?
I don't know.
Huh?
I was like, oh, they see the alien stuff because they're on a different frequency. And it was just a normal thought in this strange dream state. And I come back down and all the plants are like sparkling purple. And so I'm kind of like hopping from plant to plant being like, ooh, look at this.
Cool.
And it was like the shadow world, and it was like quiet. And then Ruby had dissipated, and I had been bestowed a knowing suddenly.
Wow.
And I got back in my body.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I just remember being like, the plants. And I've never had a big connection to plants. I'm like, I like the idea of being more connected to them, but I'm a computer nerd. I'm a motorcyclist. I'm just like, flowers.
She likes man-made things.
Yeah, they don't make a lot of sense to me. But so I've been trying to just be a little bit more aware of their presence.
Hippy dippy geomancy.
If in another life I am pursuing regenerative thermodynamics, as a I don't even know what to say after that.
Regenerative thermodynamics?
Yeah, I just feel like every time I dive into thermodynamics, I'm just like, God, there's more to this.
What are you regenning?
It's the reason why we have trash. It's because we put in energy and we can't ever get that energy back. Or we try and it takes more energy to break it down. There's a loss of energy there. And that's why it's like inherent that we just like can't figure it out. But I just like there's more.
Yeah, because our processes are from A to B instead of, from A to B to C to A to B to C to A. Like the way nature makes things. The way plants, producers, consumers, and decomposers. The way that nature doesn't have trash. We can't mirror that because we're separate from it. We're building motorcycles and shit.
Well, we're obsessed with like resins too, and this has gotten to a point where it's just like so much cheaper and easier to produce resins and plastics and
polymers,
and
those are all that whole industry is just an offshoot of fossil fuel consumption. Because if we didn't have fossil fuel, we wouldn't have petroleum, and then we wouldn't have plastic.
Yeah, I watched this documentary about BlackRock, and I understood BlackRock is the largest investment management company ever. That's the one that owns, like, they own 2% of fossil fuel companies. They own a large, they kind of have their dicks in everything, but then you realize it's because everybody's going them to invest their money. Anyways, don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That's a different podcast. But they're super, very like, come on, guys. Come on, Exxon. Time for the next thing.
Oh, BlackRock is trying to encourage
because more investors and more investor portfolios. I believe I saw the biggest change after George Floyd was murdered. Like suddenly Heineken, keep on the same thread with me.
George Floyd, rest in power.
George Floyd was murdered, and then suddenly, you'd seen it a little bit before where companies would take a stand, but with like how we were all in quarantine and people were tired of watching police brutality, it's like suddenly Heineken for the first time ever had black people in their fucking commercials. And it Lexus, Heineken, Bud Light, like all of a sudden everywhere you're like,
everybody's getting on board.
Yeah, and I was like, the biggest witness to me was how they were never there before.
Yeah, it's weird to watch old stuff and be like, wow, everyone is white. Everyone is a white person. How could this ever have been okay? Well, there was a
part in the 90s where there was a
push for diversity.
A push for, black comedians and black comedy movies were in the eye, but it's like the George Floyd thing really ignited companies taking a stand, and then people were concerned about who they were investing in because they needed to know the ethics behind. So it's been a long domino
this is a move towards your transparency desires.
It is, yeah. It just progress. Does anybody else want that? No? Yes?
It starts.
Don't you want to live in the cool future that we all envisioned that is not really happening because dinosaurs still exist?
Mitch McConnell.
Oh God, these selfish pricks, man. I just like can't get over that. It's like, go away, get out.
Yeah,
you can't release your power though, because what else would happen? Oh, we'd all die without you. It's like, no, this is geriatric abuse at this point.
Have you ever considered that, like, liberalism, like people who are open to new things and like want to try new technologies or new approaches to life, versus conservatism, like people who want to stick with the way it is because it works and they don't want to try new things, it's not safe. Like,
it needs to be in balance. You need to have a portion of people saying, no, this is order, and a portion of people going like, yeah, but I want something else.
Absolutely. But it seems like those are facets of personality. Like, if you're a human, you either, you are good with the status quo, you will enforce maintaining the status quo, you respect law, and you will, back law and order, whatever that means. Or you're like, no, there's kind of a gray area. We need to like have empathy for this person who committed this crime, God forbid. And like, I just finished my Quirk, the personality book, and the last few chapters were kind of a throwaway, but because there was no real scientific evidence to back up what she's sort of proposing. But she talked about the facets of liberalism and conservatism as being parts of our personalities. And it's odd because I usually associate liberalism with like a younger mindset. Like a younger person will be open to new things because they aren't familiar with the old world and how we've always done things. They want to like try the new thing. It doesn't scare them. And like conservatism is more for older people. But I guess there are people our age who are conservative, and it's just because it's who they are. And that's kind of freaky. But I do think we need to establish a balance. And that's why we, have a Congress where people are elected, but then they serve life terms. But yeah, I think that push, because when we were all on lockdown and George Floyd was murdered, you couldn't look anywhere else. You couldn't ignore that.
No.
Everybody was looking at it.
Yeah.
And, what is the equivalent in the environmental sector? Like, how do we get people to look at the Great Pacific Trash Gyre? How do we get people to look at the failing jet stream?
I think they know. But like I said, it's like
well, like with climate stuff, it seems like you can't really you can't like directly link like cause and effect, or like some people think you can't, right? Because we are in a period of climate change, but it is accelerated by our behaviors, and not, our behaviors, like the behaviors of corporations. But there's nobody who's like screaming for them to be accountable, because it's all about...
A lot of scientists are, and I think, and then it's like you watch a lot of investors go, this needs to change. But we've built such our whole society, and America doesn't even come close to like what China is producing, and our whole global infrastructure is based on mobility. So how do you suddenly swap that when there are still gigantic, large portions of the population who don't have access to clean water, or...
Yeah, I think somebody needs to invent either magic or teleportation.
Full Metal Corgi, what do you think? You work in the thermodynamic sector. Yeah, that is not where I thought that was going to go. Why did I bring up... How did we go from the dream to that?
Well, you were going to make a point about that realization that pushed us into action, right? Because like if the George Floyd murder hadn't happened, then we wouldn't be seeing these corporations changing their approach to marketing and things like that.
Right, because I was really confused by, I thought this like BlackRock thing was going to get into nefarious subject matter, but instead it was just like how long they've been rallying for more renewable energy, and then I felt like I was being fed a very specific storyline. I was like, okay, that's not what the title was about, but okay.
So it painted them in like a positive light, like they're sort of
and
for change.
I think I could kind of see where them being the largest investment management company ever, and everybody putting their money to them, puts their fingers in everything because that's what people want. And they've been using AI for a long time to, allegedly, I don't fucking believe any stock investor is like Yeah, well, we have this program where we simulate it. And I'm like, yeah, but you're also probably heavily doing insider trade information.
Yeah.
I got into that with an old Otoko coworker because her boyfriend was, which is illegal.
Insider trading.
Yes, insider trading.
I know. I think Martha did time on house arrest for insider trading. Martha Stewart.
It's like, okay, well, that's just what's coming to the public eye. What's not, Well,
I'm sure the whole system is full of skunks.
We call Aladdin, and it tells us magical. It's actually named Aladdin, too, which is just
so fucked.
Okay, yeah. The stock market. Oh, you know what sucks is the Federal Reserve turned to BlackRock. I found out it used to be called Blackstone, so I wasn't a total idiot for confusing the two names.
Why would they change it from stone to rock?
I don't know. They sold it. He started it a long time ago, I think in the mid-'80s.
BlackRock.
Larry Fink.
Crack Rock. Black Hawk.
Crack rock.
Crack rock.
Decimating the American population and systematically removing fathers from their families. What was that? Did you hear that?
Did you hear that? It's
anyways.
not. Is it still crack that's the biggest issue, or is it opioids?
I'm sure there's been a switch. Okay, side tangent. Watching My Little Murder Story.
Ay, Dios. What you put into the brain is what you're going to have inside.
I know. But it's like the only thing where my brain turns off. It's like it's the only thing that doesn't rile me up. This lady forced her daughter to shoot her dad. And
At gunpoint?
Yeah, while he was sleeping. But the mother had been abused for years and years, and it was like a bolt action rifle.
Why didn't she do it herself?
Because she thought if her daughter did it, who was 11, nothing would happen.
Yeah, way to ruin
They were
your
in West
kid's life.
Virginia, and the police were like, we're going to try your 11-year-old as an adult. Which I was like, that's not, you don't get to sit and pick that's there to protect children. That's not there for you to go, nope, they're an adult. Anyways.
She knew what she was doing.
Anyways.
Good golly.
So the jury found her guilty, but there's some sort of term for showing mercy, so that
leniency?
after 10 years,
Clemency?
you got to go to your probate board, or like you'd get to be released after 10 years. And the sister of the victim was like, that is injustice. I was like, we have lost how long time is. 10 years is a lifetime.
Especially for an 11-year-old.
It was her mom who went to jail.
Oh,
They
got
did
it.
not. And what even was worse is that the 11-year-old bounced around the foster care system for the next 7 years and never got adopted, and
All kinds of terrible things probably happened to her.
well, then there was a bunch of other siblings, and they got all tossed around the fire. It was just like, to me, I'm like, you can, and this is why she ultimately got convicted, is like, you could leave in the middle of the night.
Murder is not the only
You could
option.
leave. I know that he sucks, and I understand battered women syndrome and stuff, but like, call me up. I'll put my number on the screen. I'll show up in the middle of the night with a bat and a mace and a gun and be like, don't touch her. They're leaving. End of story. You don't have to murder people.
Or you just listen to that song Goodbye Earl by the Chicks. Put a little poison in his black-eyed peas.
She tried to put poison him.
And it didn't work?
She's from West Virginia. There's a lot of stuff.
You're
that just
making a
wasn't.
lot of assumptions about people from West Virginia.
You saw what city these people were from and how they were talking, you also would. And then they read the letters too, like, and you're like, oh.
Letters to who?
She wrote letters to her grandma about how she was trying to poison him, and it was just like, well, that would never work.
She put like Dawn soap in
Yeah,
his soup.
it's like, oh, come
Damn
on,
it.
man. But it's just like, we want to throw people away forever. And it's like, okay, mass shooters go into that category. People who, you know, repeat offenders of rapes. But I was like, that's not really rehabbing people. But we have totally forgotten, like, your brother is 45 years.
40, yeah.
That's inhumane. That, to me, that's cruel and unusual. Like, that's fucking...
To
like,
look at a 20-year-old...
It'd be like 45
You're
years.
going to jail for 40 years.
Did he murder 50 10-year-olds? It's like, no.
He didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, it's so fucked. And it's fucked that a state could get away with that.
Yeah, it's so wild to think that their job is to determine how the law should be interpreted. Not the cops themselves, but the actual judges who hand down the sentences. It's like, well, here's the laws that you broke. Here's what you've been charged with. And this is the recommended sentencing for the charges that you got. I'm going to go for the high end on every single one of your charges. So he got 7 felonies, and almost each one of them carried a mandatory minimum sentence. So, like,
did he have a lawyer or a public defender?
A public defender who was a piece of shit. James Sumter, you suck. You didn't
Can we
do
send him
anything.
a box of poop?
Glitter? A box of glitter that he opens, and then it goes everywhere, and then there's glitter on everything he owns for the rest of his life.
I like poop. I think we should mail him poop.
Nah, I mean, the judge who sentenced Josh, as well as the public defender who
was having a secret affair with the public defender.
They're both retired now. And they couldn't give a care about anything.
Well, especially too when it's just like regular people with drug crimes. Fuck these people. They need to go away forever. It's like, ugh.
For drugs, bro?
Yeah.
They don't understand what mental illness is and all the different forms that it takes, and like what addiction really means, and how putting somebody in prison for 40 years is never, ever, ever gonna help anybody. Especially
for drug-related crimes. Like, that's why I think the war on drugs needs to cease, because it's like, okay, come on. This is...
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, specifically for drug-related crimes and people with mental illness. It's like, this is bad. So bad.
Speaking of mental illness, do you want to hear my birth center story?
Yes. Oh my God. I don't like that segue.
I was on the phone with a woman I'd never met before last night for almost 2 hours.
What was her name? Lucinda Bell?
Her name is Jess. She...
Don't dox her.
Erica sent me this story on Facebook. And it was a very eerily similar story to my first birth experience at the Central Texas Birthing Center. And she had the same provider that I did. And I'm reading this story and I'm going, oh, wait. Suddenly, like, all these light bulbs started going off.
Whoa.
Like, ding, 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 ding. Like, uh-oh, this is a demon lady.
Oh, no.
Demon lady. She lost her perfectly healthy, full-term son while giving birth at this birthing center. And they didn't call the 911 until the baby was dead. But that's why they called 911, is to get her out of the building so that the baby would be pronounced dead at the hospital and not their facility.
What?
And she had other kids, and she's like, so I comment on her and be like, you need a witness in trial? I'm here. Like, I'm here. That same shit happened to me. And she's seeking legal action, and there's a big investigation going on. And suddenly, okay, so where do I start?
Who is this person associated with both your birthing experience and the more egregious
Who
infant
is
death?
this person?
Yeah, is that the person who has the mental illness?
Well, hearing about it, I'm like, no, you're just a facet of the demon diamond. Like, you're just...
And she's the one... She was like your doula or your...
So she was my midwife. And we had, Lucas was very against the idea of going to a birthing center because he's a nurse, an ER nurse, and was like, over my dead body. And I'm like, babe, it's birth. Like, you don't get a lot of options in the hospital anymore. I don't want a C-section, blah, 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 blah. So we go there, Lucas wants to know, what's your emergency protocol? Where's the hospital? Blah, all this stuff. And they tell you all these answers. But it was really weird because when we needed to be transferred, none of that happened. There was no protocol. They said, we're like, are you guys going to call an ambulance? And they're like, well, do you want to pay for one? And I had never wanted to fight somebody more. Like, I was angry. Like, I was like, wait, you guys lied to us. You said you had the Williamson County EMS on speed dial. You said we'd go here. And they were like, well, we're going to St. David's, Georgetown, which was 5 minutes away. And they're like, oh, no, you can't go there. I find out she's banned from there.
Oh, no.
She physically cannot be on the premise, and several other hospitals in Georgetown. She cannot perform. She's escorted off. And this woman witnessed it because the EMS showed up and they were like, we need to go to Austin Medical Center. The EMS was like, we're not going 30 minutes that way. We are going to the nearest hospital. So yeah. Sally goes with them and she saw her being escorted off property. The nurse said, get out, call security, get this woman out. And the woman giving birth was like, what the fuck is going on? What? Hold on, wait, what?
I have so many questions.
And so we talked for a long time, and I don't follow these accounts anymore per the recommendation of my therapist of like at-home birthing midwives, doulas. When something's wrong, a midwife like jumps into action and like contorts the mom and then is like, This is what my midwives did. Get the towel. And it was really weird because in that moment, I'm like, they never told me what was going on. They never said anything was wrong. They just said, I think it's time to go to the hospital now. And I'm like, wait, what? And when you're birthing, you're like hyper primordial awareness state because I'm guessing you could fight a bear. If you were like birthing, you could like fight off an enemy. And now it's like suddenly everything makes sense because they get $6,000 a pop. Like they get $6,000 per couple, and the mom does all the work. Doctors and doulas and midwives they don't do work unless
they're on standby in case something happens.
Yeah. And to hear like Erica's first baby was the same position, stuck. She said her midwife dropped what she was doing, jumped on the stretcher, straddled her, and started pushing her stomach.
Yeah.
And rotating the baby and like was telling Erica what to do. And Erica was like, I had never had a woman straddle me like that before. But this woman like got on the table, like, bah, bah, bah.
Yeah.
That's what they should be doing.
Yeah.
In case the baby isn't turning or in case the head is stuck. Or
I've read about that before. Like, that's ancient practice. Like,
and
you,
was like, okay,
you make it happen.
Erica got that. I got midwives who were like,
Doesn't the baby come out of the bottom?
Ooh. And they're like, do you want a wheelchair? And I'm like, a wheelchair? I've been crowning for fucking 3 hours. Yeah, I'd like to sit down,
Can I
please.
sit down, please? How did you find this place? Like, do they have Google reviews? Like, how did they?
They're all buried, babe. I did my research. I picked this one based on the glowing reviews. And so Jess has discovered that, oh God, she was suddenly blocked. They blocked her on every social media.
Who's Jess again?
She's the woman who lost the baby just like a couple months ago. And she's pissed because she wants answers. And she's very like, it makes me feel bad for not, apparently the hospital was supposed to report the birthing center, like with Ruby. We've got, they're supposed to document that and submit anything that happens to the licensing board. Like, hey, this birthing center you know,
dropped the ball.
dropped the fucking ball. They didn't do that. And Jess, so suddenly her and her husband are blocked. She's like, we never threatened them or anything. We wanted answers. So she's like, I go there. I need all of my charts. I need all of my records. I need the 911 call that you guys made. And she said the 911 call was haunting. She said it was like they were ordering food.
Oh.
She said there was no sense of urgency. There was no compassion. And I was like, I experienced the same thing.
God.
And
dude.
Sally came to my house and was like, oh, you need to bring Ruby to the birthing center. And I looked at her and dead in the eye and I said, I'm never walking in that building ever again.
Why'd she come to your house?
They check on the baby. It's like, that's typical.
Oh, so like a few years ago she came.
Uh-huh. Oh. And was like, I looked her in the eye and she never brought up, I'm so sorry that happened. There was no, it's like it never happened. And she's like, you need to come put Ruby's feet print on the wall. And I said, I'm never walking into that facility ever again.
Dick.
She stood up and left. I never heard from her ever again. And it's like you spend almost a year building a relationship with this person.
Yeah. And then it's like the ultimate betrayal.
Yeah. There's just no like, oh, I'm so sorry this happened. You know, it's just like there was nothing. It never happened to her.
And it also seems to be like the stickiest situation, because bringing a new person into the world is like the heaviest thing you can do pretty much. And this person has volunteered to help you do that. And
and they don't do the work. They measure your belly and check the heartbeat.
Yeah, and then it's
okay.
like, well, did you do everything that you were capable of doing that was possible? You know, did you even try? How do you measure that?
Yeah, so Jess went there and she said it was so freaky. The receptionist protected Sally, the birthing provider.
Weird.
As like, she's like, oh, it's like as if she was protecting the president from getting shot. She was like, it was the weirdest thing. And she was like, look, you've blocked me. I need answers. You're not answering me. And the receptionist was like, this is not how we have a discussion about this. And she's like, okay, do you want to let me know how? Like, you're not answering my phone calls or anything.
Yeah.
And the receptionist was like, we're going to call the cops. And she's like, call them.
Please.
They need to know what's happening here.
Yeah.
This. So she's like, I sat down and I waited for the cops. She said the cops came and they took her and Sally and were like trying to figure out what was going on. And the woman was like, I've got attorneys. I've contacted the licensing board. You know, babies die in childbirth when there's something wrong. And nothing was wrong. You know, you guys just didn't. She said they ignored the 911. The 911 operator was like, okay, this is what you do.
And they didn't do any of that.
They didn't do any of it.
Oh.
And she's like, because looking back now, the baby was already dead.
Oh, God. And
so the cops were like, look, okay, we want to keep you as a credible person.
Why?
No, credible to Jess. We want you to stay credible.
The woman who
don't
lost her
come
baby.
back here because they don't want you here. But if you want to do anything out front or on the street, pass out flyers, put up signs like that, you can totally do that. And Jess is like, no, I want this place fucking shut down. You know, because it's like they've ignored. So anytime she said she's sharing the story, and other people that work at the birthing center are like, this is not
her story is not credible.
She gave birth at home. Like, they're just totally lying.
What?
And she said, I was the 13th person to come forward where so many red flags, like no discussion. She was like, this place relies, so we practice informed consent. No, you don't. You never told us. You never informed us about anything that was happening. You never said, oh, okay, Ruby's really stuck. Let's get up and try this. There was no conversation. There was no dialogue. And the woman...
That's got to be so like the most stressful thing. You're giving birth to your first kid and nobody's saying anything to you.
You're picking up on that, too. You're like,
is something wrong? What's going on? Is this how it's supposed to go?
Even the ER doctor, who was just a flaming bitch to me, because you're treated like a criminal for trying to birth not at a hospital, she was telling me what was going on.
Yeah.
She was telling me, hey, your child's not turning. We need her to turn. You need to push. She was like communicating with me actively the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is weird. Are you supposed to talk to the person? Are you supposed to inform me of what's going on?
So you might be involved in a class action lawsuit?
She said, I was like, can we, I don't know, do you want to start like a little group or something? Like, I want updates. I want you to update me on how this goes. And she's like, it sucks because a lot of women are like you. It's like, you get the baby, you never want to think about that place ever again. And I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I totally get that. But she's like, I'm the first complaint to the licensing board about this place. And I'm like, fuck. Because you have a new baby. You're like, new baby. Oh, I'm busy.
But her kid died.
Her kid died. So it's like...
It's a vendetta.
Yeah, and we both kind of commiserated about the deep, blinding white rage. You know, like, you fucked with me. Yeah. How dare you fuck with me? Because, like, my friend had a recently failed vaginal birth and had to get a C-section. And she was like, there's these feelings coming up of all normal feelings. What I anticipated to feel, like failure, I want to try again. I never felt that. I felt like just blinding rage. And this time I'm like, just cut the fucking baby out. At this point, I just like, that birth was so traumatic. You know, doing 145 miles an hour in a fucking Subaru STI on my hands and knees screaming, every mother ever did this. And Lucas is like, just keep breathing. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is fucked up. Give me a fucking epidural on my eyeball next time. Like, what was I? What?
That is so it's heartbreaking.
So Lucas, for the first time, like, brought up a lot. Like, wow, dude, do you remember this and this and that? And we're like, oh my God, it's like suddenly all the pieces are fitting together. The light bulbs are going on. Like, whoa. And it's a lot to process because there's another baby 2 months away. But even I remember talking to my provider and being like, I had the labor handbook. And I was like, I pointed to a section. I was like, I think Ruby's stuck in the OP because I'm having these symptoms. She's like, no, baby's flip. Baby's going to turn. Don't worry about it. Whereas, like, all the concerns I've brought up to my very Western doctor, she's like, okay, well, let's talk about it. You know,
so this is like the only instance where Western medicine healthcare industry has not failed you.
Yeah, now in this like strange new perspective, I'm going, wow, well, she was really dismissive.
And then the other ER doctor.
Well, my current OB is like, what are you concerned about? Okay, well, no, that's not how it's going to go. It's going to go like this. And if you're, blah, 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 we're having a conversation. There's no dismissal of my...
Well, I'm glad you found someone who'll listen to you.
Well, yeah, and I had like called 5 offices and I was just sobbing because they're all like, no, we're not taking, we're not taking new. And so I just like picked whoever was open. I was like, this lady, she could not remember my name. And I was like, you see,
Darlene, get over here. What's your name? Christina?
I was like, at this point, I'm surrendering like Ram Dass. It's like, I'm just, yeah, that's me, Brittany. Hello, whatever. Call me whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. Shout out Brittany.
Wow, fuck, dude.
It's fucking hot in here.
Yeah, the heat escapes through the crown of your head, so you're kind of blocking it in wearing a hat.
I had to write. I felt inspired after I've gotten a lot of people who want to see more MotoGP footage, so I was like,
keep it on, just sweat it out.
You need to take it off. Fuck.
You could take off your shoes. That might help.
I don't have shoes on.
Oh, okay. Well, and we've got another baby on the way in a few months. We're so excited about her arrival.
Just get out of my fucking body, man.
We're anticipating her. She's gonna love soccer, maybe.
Dude, Ruby was like saying such mean shit yesterday. She's
About
like,
Lydia?
I'm not gonna share my toys at all with her. And I was like,
Ruby,
oh,
we haven't even met her yet.
those are big words, babe. And she's like, I'm gonna give her a bowl of dirt. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, I'm sure I can't even fathom like what my reality is gonna be like after November.
How much older than Erica are you?
6 years.
Oh, and Lucas is 3 years between his sisters?
I think 4 years between him and his older sister.
And they all worked out, right? Are they friends?
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and my brother are a year and 12 days apart, and he never tried to make me eat a bowl of dirt, but he did try to kill me a bunch of times.
Yeah, there's some I've got this book called like Why Mexican Siblings Don't Fight, and does parenting even make a difference? Like how much of it is cultural?
Huh.
So I haven't gotten to the Why Siblings Don't Fight yet, because I was like, yeah,
Dude, I want to read that.
They don't.
What is it about Mexican culture?
That's what I want to know.
That's what I want to know.
The only thing I could really, I don't know, was your brother ever like, hey, you're babysitting, was there like a sense of responsibility with you? I think that has a lot to do with it. Like you are in charge. You need to look at.
I don't think they ever put him in charge. And then there's also like the boy-girl differential. Like, I guess girl brains are smarter, faster than boy brains.
Dude, it is so crazy. You put Osiris and Ruby next to each other, and Ruby has never put her shoes on the wrong feet. Ever. Like, she was 13 months old being like, right, left. And I'm like, ooh. And then Osiris is still nonverbal, and he's like, he did this. He threw a basketball behind him, and it made the fucking hoop. And it was like on the tallest setting. It was like 5 feet above his head, and I was just like, whoa. The gross motor skills.
The spatial awareness.
Versus like Ruby, it's like, okay, here, babe. Here's the, but it's like she can, you know, they're just different.
Yeah.
Whereas like Osiris is psychic, just like, boom, whoa,
Physically psychic. And I don't know what that means.
yeah. Dakari across the street, he's like what, a foot tall, 1.5 feet. He like threw a football and I caught it. I was like, oh my god.
You like fell back on the ground.
It's like, oh, you guys are little boys are just so good at that shit. I was
That's
like,
so
I can't
cool.
even throw a football like that. I'm like, ooh.
I was just thinking about my friend Josh and Maddie's kids. They have 2 boys. And their first boy, they took him to like do soccer or whatever, and he's so not interested in any of that shit. He loves trucks and like construction stuff and Bob the Builder stuff, but their younger kid, you get a ball around him and he is a fucking virtuoso, but they want to like nourish them in the same way and not be like, oh, my sporty boy, my sensitive reading boy. Like, they want to like give them both the same opportunities the whole way. But it's interesting to see how these 2 boys even manifest in different ways.
I can't wait to see what another daughter's like.
Yeah.
And I do that with Ruby. Like, all the boys I've encountered, which is like 7 of them, love the bicycle. They're just like flying.
Uh-huh.
And Ruby is just, it's very dramatic. There's a lot of different things that need to be in place in order for her, but I try to foster resiliency, which is like, we're going on 2 years of that now, and it's still just like, but I'm never going to give up. Like, we're always going to do stuff that's hard.
So she's just like very anxious about it.
Yes, and if the thing isn't where the thing needs to be, or it gets hard. She's a very frustrated child. Like, frustration has been, I think, because she's just too smart and too, she's like, nothing works. I'm like, no, you just explode a little too much.
She's got great expectations.
Yes.
And I think maybe if you go into a situation without those, then you're less frustrated with the outcome.
Exactly.
But I don't know how you curb that in a 3-year-old.
You can't. You got to ride the wave and look at the two different boys and see like, all right, we got two different situations going on here. Like we got to you got to foster who they are, and it's hard sometimes because you're like, it's a challenge. But I'm like, will the next baby into bicycles? Maybe not.
So exciting.
I don't know.
I'm so curious what she's gonna look like, because you sent me that pic of you on your dad's lap the other day.
Yes, shout out Stevie. I was like thinking about him, and then Stevie sent me a picture of her on one side and me on the other. My dad must have been, I don't know, 23 or something, or 22.
He's so cute.
I was so crazy.
But I looked at you and I was like, Ruby. That's Ruby. Look at that little nose.
My Uncle Tom is always just like, ew. It's so, and I was like, man, I see Pam. I don't see me.
Yeah, it's all there.
It is all there for sure.
Damn. Thank you for sharing that harrowing experience with us.
Isn't it crazy? It's like a whole new, it's like I time traveled, or like it's a new dimension where suddenly it's not about me, it's about the facility and the demonic. I was like,
and like preventing that kind of thing from happening to other people.
All this facility had to do was call 911 when the baby's heart rate was dropping and say, and prioritize the mother and the child. Instead, they didn't do that. They covered their asses. And that's where you become evil in my book.
Really suspect.
You're evil and demonic.
When you're like, no, we need to save face. Get them off property.
Ew.
Like, that is not... If you're in the business of bringing new life into the world, that cannot be your priority.
Suddenly, I want to burn down that facility. I'm like, ew, no.
I'm curious if there have been any successful ones.
There have been many successful ones, but like I said, and like I was talking with Jess, that's all the mom's harrowing.
Right.
Because it's like every moment a mom had a baby that wasn't turning the right way, or a stuck shoulder or something, or somebody else who's lost a child, it's like they didn't do anything. And that's not okay.
No.
Also, did you guys know that there's apparently a Lego set of an MT-10 SP? Because those are the texts I'm getting right now.
I don't know what that is, but I think it's a motorcycle.
It is. I don't know how I feel about the Lego realm. I'm like, I don't.
Also, how do you make wheels out of Legos?
They come with wheels.
So, I mean, I was at Target the other day, and there are some crazy ass Legos out there.
Yes, I feel like they got some sort of, maybe somebody on the chat knows more.
They were contacted by ET, and they have a whole
I feel like they just have like some crazy CAD 3D program that can just like generate, they can like throw anything in there and then it'll...
Oh, like a 3D printer?
Like a software is doing all the work for them. They're like, we want to make a Ferrari, and they're like, oh, here, so suddenly like technology is working in their favor.
The Lego board of directors. I told you this was a good idea. I fucking told you.
It took us 30 years. I also want to know, I don't know if you know this because you're not tapped into this realm yet. Play-Doh clearly sold their soul to the Chinese, and everything they make is garbage. I remember Play-Doh being like big toys, substantial kits, but now it's like everything is crappy and shitty and small and nothing fits. And I'm like, when did Play-Doh fucking...
Aren't they just a subsidiary of the fucking... What's that big company that owns all the toys? Vaseline? No, what is it? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a symptom of globalization.
Let's look. Oh, shit.
Procter Silex.
We're at the end, but I wanted to bring up
It never has to end. We can do like Joe Rogan and do like a 12-hour pod.
Jao. So, I have brought this up. You know, in a previous podcast.
Wait, did you look it up?
Wait, no. The Play-Doh thing.
Here, I'll look it.
Please, get on the Play-Doh horn real quick. Find out when they sold their souls to the Chinese and became some fucking piece of shit company. Do.
Fuck it, dog.
Is it not?
Keep going with your thing.
Okay. So in the past, I have brought up, I'm a big Ram Dass. Ram Dass really spoke to me. I like a lot of Hindu, Buddhism stuff that always really resonates with me. They have explanations for stuff that just makes sense. And Neem Karoli Baba practiced. Okay, so let me start from the beginning. In this Ram Dass lecture, he's talking about a student that came to him and was like, there's a homeless man on my block. I pass him every day and I give him change. And she essentially was like, I've actually started budgeting to give this man change. But what am I so afraid of, beyond that? And it turned into a conversation about boundaries, right? Like, you don't want this guy living in your house.
You give a mouse an inch, he'll take a foot.
There's all, and Ram Dass talks about how the heart is unconditional by nature, but the mind is logical. The mind is like, no, there's bills to pay. You need to think about your safety. And talking about that struggle in spiritual practice. And then he brought up what Neem Karoli Baba, which is Ram Dass's teacher, talks about, which is Jao. And the practice of Jao means go away. And he said you'd see Westerners travel all this way to the Himalayas. And this was in the 50s and 60s, so this is long plane ride, it still takes forever to get there. So, and he would go, Jao, and people would be so offended because in his mind, you don't need to travel to see me. You don't need to sit near me. Mm-hmm. Which was very the opposite of like the cult risings that were kind of happening. Yeah. I forget the big guy in Oregon who just had a massive insidious cult in the 80s. Oh, I can't remember.
Well, it's also the idolatry that's like,
yes,
Jesus Christ, Muhammad. Like, there's always a prophet that you need to focus your energy on.
And so you found a real one. He's like, get the fuck away from me.
He's like, dude, it's not me. You don't need me, bro.
Yeah, and
go away.
Ram Dass was talking about how there was a different version of himself to everybody all of his students, and every student thought that they had the right version.
Interesting.
But what he's really doing is when we all practice becoming nobody, which is not attached to our personality, our thoughts, our habits, our body, who we are, our identity, you are reflecting or you are being that tool or that instrument for your student to show them the things, which made me think of my old boss because
who
at the channel I used to work for.
Oh, that one channel?
Because I found out he was talking mad shit behind my back and he thought I was so two-faced. And I was like, dude, what reality were you projecting on me to where you thought? Mm-hmm. But it's funny, it's like, looking back at all the things he said and how everything went down, it's like all of your fears come out.
That's huge.
I didn't say shit. I was like, okay, yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
But you become a projection of their inner realm versus what people like us do, which is we listen and we tune in and we have thoughts and considerations for who we're interacting with, which I think is very rare.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people listen to each other or tune into one another or not sit and project their fantastical realities or their fears or their...
Well, yeah, honestly, that's something that I still struggle with, but I catch myself doing it now.
Now you have an awareness.
I have awareness that, you know, because going through my life, I've always been, like, very concerned with how other people perceive me. And the projection comes with that. And just knowing that most of the things that I think are bad that are happening to me are, like, actual things that I've created that I'm unleashing on myself. So that's a huge help, you know, just to like make that connection and be aware that that's a possibility. Because like, why do I feel so anxious about this? Nothing is coming from their side that's negative. I just think that they have negative feelings that they're not revealing, that I know about. And that whenever we talk about like listening to your intuition, my intuition is not like actually tuned into truth. Like it's usually scared and anxious and gives me bad information.
It's funny because then the first thing I think of, I'm like, well, then that's not your intuition.
Right. It's like negative self-talk.
That's
Thanks for watching episode 54.
There he is right now. Yeah, it's like, how do you unearth that?
Doing a podcast.
It's funny, I could see the waveform. Okay, so real quick before we go.
Yeah.
The variations in Maharaji's use of the word Jao were infinite. From a below, sometimes preceded by ap, which is you. For the recalcitrant, to a tender as Jao Ma, as he gently patted a woman devotee, bowing at his feet.
Oh, like, please go away. You sweetie, you go away now.
Oh, I should post a link to this. I'm going to post a link to this because it's actually kind of very long. But
no, I love that. Redirecting, you know? And some people need gentle redirecting.
Jao could be for a moment or it could be forever. To the nearby city, you could banish somebody to Nanantal for the night, or the most dreaded by Westerners, Maha Jao, which is the Great Jao. Go back to America. Jao.
Get thee away from me.
Jao could even be questioned if one was willing to play that perilous game. For a Jao might be disputed successfully, but also a Jao of the week to go visit the holy Benares might. On the response of a groan, be transformed to a Jao of a month of a pilgrimage to the Rasham at the southernmost tip of India. Never was it simply go, but always go with love. I love that boundary that really is where I want to get to with certain people in my life, where I'm like, I love you, go away. Go.
Yeah, I think that's really useful because then you don't sort of poison the relationship with them thinking that you hate them, you know?
Can we make this word a reality? Jao.
Jao. Jao.
Speaking of which, Jao.
Jao.